Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
The first of 3 road courses we're going to talk about in quick succession. Let's talk about the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, which I always remember as a long-time NASCAR O'Reilly Series venue from like 2015 2021. So most of my childhood. I enjoyed it. Always a good race. Always a fun show. I was really good at Mid-Ohio in the NASCAR Heat Games, so if that means anything, go ahead. The race got reshuffled a little bit. It became a truck race in 2022. Lasted a couple years. It was a triple header between them, ARCA, and I think it was also the IMSA weekend. But then NASCAR just got rid of it, and it's like, well, fucking whatever. I think Mid-Ohio is a track that probably should come back in some capacity. I think if you like bring the O'Reilly Series there during the IMSA weekend, which currently consists of the Pilot Challenge, the VP Sports Racing Challenge, and like some of the lower series like the Mustang and the Super Challenges, I think it'd make for a pretty good show because you can, like I said, mix the NASCAR and the IMSA audiences together and hopefully make for a larger crowd and a nice fun weekend of motorsports. Mid-Ohio is a perfectly solid, fun little road course in, well, the middle of Ohio. Yeah, I don't really have much to say. I think it should come back. I'm giving Mid-Ohio a yay.
Road America.
Next up is Road America. I'm giving it a yay. Road America is a cool-ass racetrack, and it is a darn shame that NASCAR got rid of it, even though I do like the Chicago Street Course, but we'll get to that later in the video. Road America is one of America's greatest road courses, so much so that it's straight up in the name. It's held, NASCAR over the years. It's held IndyCar, kart, IMSA, World Sports Car Championship, Trans Am, Moto bike racing, all that crap. It is a true cathedral of speed. It is America's Monza, 4 miles of blasting through the woods along this weird, titan, fast and flowing circuit. I love it so much. And also, the Wisconsin fans show up just like in general all the time. I was watching highlights from the 2021 and 2022 races because I remember those races were like just okay for the NASCAR Cup Series, but the fans were packed the fuck out. It was insane. Like crazy campgrounds or whatever. And keep in mind, this was like in a month-and-a-half span. You had IndyCar, and then like 2 weeks later you had NASCAR, and then like 2 weeks later you had the IMSA weekend. And it was packed out for every single one of those in 2021. This is like still sort of kind of COVID-y, and all distances were, near close to each other, and they were all awesome. They were all packed out. They were all great. I think, without a doubt, Road America should come back in some capacity, if not just as like an O'Reilly venue like it was for so long in the 2010s. Yeah, like I said, easiest yay in my life.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course.
Man, out of all of the tracks on this video that had a sort of like psychosis era where everybody wanted them on the schedule, and then after 2 years we realized it kind of sucked and we wanted it off, like, Bristol Dirt and that sort of thing. I think the one that aged the worst was the Indianapolis road course. Why did we all want this on the schedule? Me included, by the way. I'm saying we because I was a glazier at the Indy road course in like 2020. The Brickyard 400 had run its course. You can't put stock cars on the IMS Oval. It just don't work. And after a successful 2020 O'Reilly Series race at the track on the same weekend as the Brickyard 400, NASCAR went full send and they got rid of the Brickyard 400. They brought in the Verizon 200 at the Brickyard. They turned it around the other way, and they had a cool doubleheader weekend between NASCAR and IndyCar, which I actually thought was the best part of the Indy road course. I loved having the crossover between the two events. The only problem was everything else. The racing in 2021 was okay, and then the curbs exploded, and then the race got turned on its head. At least AJ Allmendinger won. That was pretty cool. Then the next gen showed up, and the racing was, it got worse. I remember the 2023 race was interesting from a strategy perspective. This was the one that Michael McDowell won on pure absolute pace. This was the race that also didn't have any stage cautions, because this is when NASCAR didn't have any stage cautions on road courses in 2023, which they should bring back. It's just it just feels weird in retrospect now that we've had 2 Brickyard 400s on the big oval, and it just feels right. I don't know. I know the racing isn't great because the cars don't have enough horsepower and they're just planted to the ground or whatever, but it just feels right. You know what I mean? I'm going to give the Indy road course a big old nay. WEC should come here and do a doubleheader with IMSA for the Battle of the Bricks weekend, I think. That'd be pretty cool.
Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum.
Remember how I said that the NASCAR schedule creators were smoking crack when they thought up Bristol Dirt? They smoked even more crack when they thought up the fucking Clash at the Coliseum. But What an inspired idea. I have no idea, like, who thought of this, but I want to give you a round of applause. What if we put a racetrack in the LA Memorial Coliseum? That's the greatest idea I've ever heard in my entire life, honestly. After the Clash was held at the Daytona Road Course in 2021 to, like, decent fanfare, the race was, it was okay. I think it needed a move, personally. I didn't love how the race was in Southern California at the start of the season. You know, teams have to go from Charlotte to Los Angeles, then back to Florida, then back immediately to Los Angeles because Auto Club is the second race of the season at that point. With that being said, though, I think the aura factor of the LA Memorial Coliseum racetrack sort of upped it a little bit. Look at these screenshots. This is just cool. Like, look at it. I think the problem, though, was definitely the racing. As we now know, the LA Coliseum got removed from the schedule in favor of Bowman Gray. And initially, I wasn't super happy about this because this was a year after the Auto Club Speedway had vanished, never to be seen again. And suddenly, NASCAR had zero presence in the big-ass, Southern California area. And I was like, well, why are we leaving the populous Southern California region for another race in North Carolina? They've got like 12 of those. We don't need another one. And then the 2025 Clash was better than any Clash at Los Angeles racing-wise, and I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense why we moved it then. I think Bowman Gray just works as a racetrack better than Los Angeles. I don't really know why. They're both bull rings, but Bowman Gray is a more normal bull ring. You can see in the side-by-side between the two racetracks. Bowman Gray just flows a little bit better than Los Angeles does, which I think makes the racing better. It also just looks better on TV. The LA Memorial Coliseum is like 80,000 capacity. That'd be a sellout for a lot of NASCAR tracks, and if you could believe it, the LA Coliseum Clash did not sell out in most of the years, but Bowman Gray is only like 20,000 capacity. You can get that easy done. It makes sense as to why NASCAR moved the Clash back to North Carolina instead of Los Angeles. It also costs a lot of money to basically build a new racetrack every year, just take it down within a span of like a week for one race that didn't even count for points. I'm gonna give it a nay, but I mean, I'll remember it fondly, but yeah, I'm gonna give it a nay.
Milwaukee Mile.
Next up is the Milwaukee Mile. So the Milwaukee Mile has a history with NASCAR. It's a long-time O'Reilly Truck and ARCA venue from like the 90s and 2000s. It was removed from the schedule in 2010, if I remember correctly, and came back in 2023 as a truck race. Lasted for 2 years, but then, for the first time ever in recorded human history, an IndyCar race came in and usurped the popularity of a NASCAR race. I know, crazy, right? The IndyCar race debuted in 2024. I think this is one of the best decisions that they've made in recent years. Milwaukee is a great short oval. It has a long history with IndyCar. I think it's the oldest continually operating racetrack on the planet. So it makes sense that the oldest continually operating racing discipline, if you want to call it that, it makes sense that they race there. Also, the racing is just good and the fans show up. So, why not? I certainly think NASCAR would hold a good racing there, but can we just leave IndyCar to themselves? They can have like one oval that they can keep for themselves. It's okay. I don't think we're losing much by not having the Milwaukee Mile on the schedule. Just watch a race at Loudon. It's not a big deal. Like I said, giving it an A. Not bad, but I think IndyCar deserves, one track. We'll leave it at them.
Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez.
Next up, the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, Mexico. That's probably really terrible. I'm sorry to all my, it's 2 Latin American viewers. Sorry, guys. Mexico City was a fun addition to the schedule that I really assume is going to come back in the next few years. It's not on the schedule this year. I'm actually recording this on the weekend of when it was supposed to be held. It's not being held this year in 2026 because of the World Cup, which is obviously being held in Mexico City. They got a bunch of games down at the Azteca. The race got moved to Coronado in San Diego for the big old 250th anniversary semi-quincentennial naval base race, which, I get it. I get why they did that. I do hope and I think that it's going to come back in 2026. Maybe just it's going to be the same weekend again. I'm not really sure. Maybe it'll come back on the West Coast swing to make it easier for, travel purposes. If you're coming from Phoenix, it makes sense to go straight down to Mexico City instead of going from Michigan to Pocono to Mexico to Sonoma. The racing in 2025, the only race we've seen there, was good. I thought it was fine. I'm glad that they used the shorter circuit because I think that Mexico City is a little bit too tight for NASCAR in its crew configuration. It's arguably even too tight for F1 in its crew configuration. The races in F1 there kind of stink because it's just kind of an old style racetrack. Like I said, if there was any track in this video that I would give the best odds to in terms of returning to the schedule, it would probably be Mexico City. Suarez is still racing. He's like low-key goated this year, better than any year he had at Trackhouse. Make of that what you will. So clearly the Mexican fans still care. And you know what? Maybe in a few years we'll get Helio Mesa on the NASCAR grid and we can have 15 races in Mexico City. Why not? I'm giving Mexico City a yay. I hope it returns in 2027.
Chicago Street Course.
The Chicago Street Course. What an interesting specimen you are. NASCAR has a long history in Chicago. The first races there were truck races held at the old Chicago Motor Speedway, which was a kart pet project. It was a mile-long racetrack built in the suburb of Cicero on the south side, sort of near one of the airports that looks like a big X like this in the middle of Chicago. But eventually Chicagoland Speedway got built and they've just moved all the races out there. Chicagoland held races from 2001 to 2019 in its initial run, and the races were usually solid. I never really cared about Chicagoland that much as a kid. It was just like slightly more boring Kansas or Las Vegas to me. And when NASCAR left in 2020, I was like, well, I mean, like, we really didn't have to leave it. Especially because the last two races at Chicagoland were like really good in 2018 and 2019. Fortunately, in 2023, NASCAR had a plan. They said, hey, we'll come back to Chicago, but not at the Oval. We'll revitalize the market by racing on the streets, like a real racing series like IndyCar or F1 or GT World Challenge Asia. And so they did. And for 3 years, NASCAR held its weirdest but also most publicly accessible race ever to decent reviews and fanfare. Obviously, a lot of old people hated it because they were racing in the downtown city of Chirac, but normal people thought it was pretty cool because, hey, NASCAR's racing in downtown Chicago. Look at these views from the racetrack. You can see Lake Michigan, and you can see all of the big buildings and all that stuff. I thought it was pretty cool anyways. I'm not from Chicago, but like I would have probably gone. The thing is with street circuits in NASCAR is that they operate differently than in other sports, mostly because we've only had one and we're going to see the second in about 5 days as the time I'm recording this, probably after when you get this video out. Street circuits in NASCAR should serve, in my opinion, one of two purposes. They should either A, revitalize a market that hasn't had NASCAR in many years, like in Chicago, or B, they should hold races in places that don't have any NASCAR races, like arguably right now in San Diego with the Coronado race. They don't have any races in Southern California, might as well try it out. This could also work out for other cities that don't have races like Denver, Colorado, or Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or Tulsa or Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The problem with the second street circuit concept that I proposed is that, like, if those races are successful, let's say theoretically a Denver street race happens, like the Champ Car one from the 2000s. Let's say there's a race on that same track. So cool, the Denver race happens, you get a lot of fanfare, and the Denver fans are like, hey, we want a permanent race on the schedule. But then another city comes out and say, hey, we want to pay you money to put on a street race on our city streets. What is NASCAR supposed to do? They don't have a racetrack in Colorado ever since Pike Peak closed down. You can't really build one. What money do you have? You're NASCAR in 2020 current year. You don't have any money. So like what are you supposed to do? I don't know. That's the problem. With all that said, I think Chicago served its purpose. It worked well for the years it was on the schedule, but now that Chicagoland is back, hopefully for the long term, I don't really see a need to bring back the Chicago street race. I'm going to give it a nay, but I will always remember it kindly. Wait, what do you mean they're trying to bring it back for 2027?
Portland International Raceway.
Portland International Raceway out in Portland, Oregon, host of a few O'Reilly races from 2022 to 2025. I like this track. I think it's pretty fun, rather underutilized in my opinion, but once NASCAR announced the reason why O'Reilly wasn't racing here from 2026, it made a lot of sense. Apparently the infrastructure is just really not good at this track, which does make you wonder why IndyCar continues to race here. Do they just not care, or do they just need races? I'm not going to think about that question anymore because it makes me feel bad. But anyway, like I said, Portland was removed from the schedule just because it's kind of shoddy, I guess. But I think it should absolutely 100% return. And who knows, maybe it will. If they actually lock in, fix the racetrack, put like a single cell tower nearby, maybe it could be brought back for the O'Reilly or Truck Series. Maybe even the Cup Series, who knows? Because the Pacific Northwest is a pretty big region of the country that NASCAR has like zero presence in apart from the West Tour. But that's like 5th tier NASCAR. If you're a NASCAR fan, you might go to those races. I know I would, because you might as well. You might see a future GOAT racing. You also might see Sean Hingorani racing. But you know what I mean. It's the ARCA West Series. The Cup Series and O'Reilly and Trucks just mean more. I think Portland should definitely come back, hopefully with a better, general aura around it. So yeah, Portland, you're getting a yay from me, dog.
Charlotte Motor Speedway, Roval.
Ah, the Charlotte Roval. The one that started the whole thing. Back in 2018, Marcus Smith said, fuck it. The Charlotte races are kinda boring. Let's remove the second one and make it a road course race, because we have one of those in the infield. General consensus was, huh? That's pretty cool, because at that point, the most recent schedule change was the addition of Kentucky, and we were all starved. The Roval served its purpose, kind of like the Chicago street course, I would say. It existed back when Charlotte was not a good racetrack. One of the worst, in fact. I kind of hated watching the Cooks 100 for multiple years because it was just nothing interesting was going on. But then with the next-gen car, Charlotte suddenly became goated. Yeah, I think it was a good decision to bring it back on the oval in 2026. Maybe a little bit short-sighted because now we don't have a single road course race after Sonoma in 2026. Like, after June, it's just straight ovals for the rest of this season, which, if you don't like 7 road courses on your schedule, that's fine. But I feel like everyone wants to spread it out a bit more. But then again, they're going to do it next year with Watkins Glen moving to the Chase, so they already fixed that. I didn't mind the Charlotte Roval when it was on the schedule. I thought it was pretty solid. Racing was usually pretty good. It was fun. Anyways, it was unique at the very least. But I don't know. I like I said, I think it served its purpose well. Do we need Rovals on the schedule? Arguably, maybe. I certainly wouldn't hate it. But then again, a lot of Rovals are terrible. Like, we're not going to be doing the fucking Kansas Roval anytime soon because that shit. I don't even want to look. I don't even want to look at it. It's bad. Charlotte Roval did its job. Did it pretty well. I'd say au revoir, friend. We'll see you in Valhalla. I'm giving it an A. So there we go. That's every single track that left the NASCAR schedule from 2020 to last year. And whether or not I think they should return in some capacity. For lightning round, let's go like this. Thank you for tuning in as per usual. We'll get more content out sometime soon. I've been Andrew from Andrew Says Nothing. Good night.